Another week here on Steelers Talk and yet another week of Aaron Rodgers Watch. Welcome into the Steelers Talk live show. I am your host, Jack Sperry. We got a bunch of great Steelers content coming your way here on a beautiful Monday evening. Thank you to all the Yinzers tuning in at the beginning of today's live program. And we got a bunch of great stuff coming your way, man. First of all, Mike Tomlin and Omar are in Palm Beach for the NFL owners meetings. And they had some very interesting things to say in a number of different interviews there in Palm Beach. We'll get to my takeaways from both Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan and what it means for their plans here for 2025. Then our second segment today, we'll do a little bit of draft stuff with my running back draft targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to go over early round, mid-round, and late round draft sleepers at the running back position. We're going to do that for all the top positions of need throughout the draft season here on Pittsburgh Steelers Talk. And today we started all off with running backs. Now, before we get into the content today, you guys might remember last week we said producer Coop is actually on his way to London right now. So I'm bringing back one of your favorite supplementary producers here. You might remember him from our Paul Skeens watch parties last year. Jack Lauderay filling in this week. Everybody spam those Jacks in the chat to welcome Jack Lauderay. He does not have his producer mic. We do not have a producer mic. Yeah, you can't hear him, but he doesn't have his producer mic, so he's just smiling and waving today. But everybody say hi to Jack, and everyone show your love to Jack in the chat. Because he's helping us out this week. He doesn't usually help us out, but he has other responsibilities, but he's doing those responsibilities and helping out our channel this week. So he's been a big help. So spam those Jacks for me down there in the comment section. Going to give some shout-outs to the people showing love here. We got Paranormal in the Funhouse, Steelers Dad, Christopher, Batuzen. We got Christopher, Chuck Dugan, Father to Father, Mr. Deadhead YouTube. Buddy Bear, he says, what's up, Jack and Jack? What's up, Buddy Bear? We got Paranormal in the Funhouse again. JT, Ali the Reaper. We got Chris Case, Pizza is Goated. Justin Yankuski. We've got Art. We got Steeli. What's up, Steeli? What's up, my man? We got CJ Ross. We got Brian Edge. We got Tremaine Terry. We've got QP. We got Michael. We got Harold. We got Let's Go Sports. We've got 226 people already watching in the chat. Already a great start to this live show. So make sure you guys keep spamming those Jacks if you haven't already. If you guys want to get on the show, if you have a mock draft you want to get on the show, if you have just a question that you guys want to get on the show here on Steelers Talk, you guys can send in a super chat if you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf working out in LA. If you want to talk about Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan and what they had to say at the owners' meetings this week, whatever you want to talk about. If you have a topic you want me to discuss live on this channel today, make sure you send in those super chats. We'll make sure you guys get on the channel. I'll also let you guys know that whenever the Aaron Rodgers news comes down, it certainly seems like we are just hours, maybe days, maybe weeks away from an official decision, but it certainly seems like when that decision comes, he will officially sign on to be the next starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So whenever that happens, we're going to be going live on this channel, and we're going to be giving away an Aaron Rodgers jersey. $20 to enter that jersey raffle. We have a running list of people that have entered into that jersey raffle. So if you guys want to join that raffle today, you guys can put in $20 in Super Chat, Venmo, Cashapp, or PayPal. And then also, if we get to $100 total today, I'll stay live an extra 10 minutes with you guys to talk some Steelers football, talk about all the stuff that Rodgers and DK did over the weekend, talk about whatever you guys want for an extra 10 minutes at the end of today's show if we can make $100 in total donations. And if you guys want to double your raffle tickets for that Aaron Rodgers jersey, you guys can send in your donations to any of these platforms here, at Jack-Sperry on Venmo, @ Captain Jack 19 on Cash App, or at Captain Jackrabbit on PayPal. The reason why we give you an extra raffle ticket when you put in your $20 at Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal is because YouTube takes a 30% cut of every single super chat that you send in, and Apple takes another 10% of the money that you guys send in via super chat. But with Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, more of that money goes towards us here at Chat Sports to help us keep the lights on, pay for all the equipment that we have, all of our graphics, all the different stuff, to give you guys the best damn Steelers content 100% free. So if you guys want us to keep more of your donation dollars and you want an extra jersey raffle ticket to win that Aaron Rodgers jersey whenever he ends up making his final decision, you guys can send in a $20 Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal to any of the addresses right here. And before we get into the first segment today, spam those memes in the chat if you want a shout out on today's show. By the way, we just got our first Cash App of the day. So, Jack, I will send that your way. There you go. So we'll get to that Cash App here in just one moment. So spam those memes if you've clicked that thumbs up icon. We got 274 people watching live, only 56 likes. We need to get to 75 likes before we get into our first segment here, guys. It helps out the channel. It's free to do so. It gets as many Steelers fans in here as possible because it tells the YouTube algorithm that you're enjoying our content and that they should push this show out to more Steelers fans out on the internet. So make sure you click that thumbs up icon right now. We got Jack Hay here. We got Tristan White. We got Russell. We got Ollie the Reaper. We got Tristan. We got Gabe. We got Mr. Deadhead. We got Magical Moments. He says, what's up? Let's go Steelers. What's up, Magical Moments? We got Sack. We got Christopher. We got Father the Father. We got Daryl Oglesby. What's up, Daryl? Good to see you. We got DJ KJ in here. What's up, DJ KJ? Steelers Dad is here. Sack Kala. We got Michael Walter. We've got Jeffrey Cooperstein. Coop is here, everybody. Everybody spam Coop in the chat. Coop is watching with us. He's got the day off today in preparation for his trip to go to London. So everybody spam those Coops in the chat. He is watching with the rest of you guys. We got Jason L. We got Mr. Deadhead. We got Chris Case, Father the Father, Tristan. Donna Elliott is here. What's up, Donna? Good to see you. Pizza is goated. And we will get to our first Cash App notification of the day here in just one moment. Also got another Cash App here, Jack. I'll send it your way. All right, first one's ready. Here we go. $1 Cash App from my man Quincy Miles. What's up, Quincy? And I think he sent a message. He says, what are the odds that we get Jalen Milroe? So Quincy, I think the chances are relatively high. I don't know if it's going to be in the first round. In fact, I really hope it's not in the first round. He's not a first-round prospect to me. He needs to sit for at least a year, maybe two. And that is something that, I'm really concerned about. He's got a long way to go. He needs to work on his accuracy. He needs to work on his pocket presence. He needs to work on his throwing mechanics. Everything with his game outside of pure physical tools, it's pretty raw. All right, so he's going to have to spend at least a year, maybe two, on the bench, learning from a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So if you can get him in round 3, I think that'd be great, Quincy. But we'll see where he ends up going in the NFL draft this year. Reminds me a lot of Malik Willis when he was coming out. And he's a bigger version of Malik was. And Malik went in the 3rd round, so watch out for Jalen to potentially go around the same area. We got another Cash App here, Mr. Jack. I'll send it your way. Our first 20 of the day. Jamie is in on the jersey raffle. That is 2 raffle tickets for Mr. Jamie. And he also has a message here. Jamie says, where is it? He says, for the love of the show, here we go, Steelers. Here we go. My man Jamie, appreciate the $20, my friend. That's 2 raffle tickets for the Aaron Rodgers jersey raffle whenever Mr. Aaron makes his decision. Then we got a 20 from my man CJ Ross. What's up? And he says, today for Aaron. Hopefully it happens soon, man. I mean, there was a report from Andrew Filipponi. Apparently there was a caller that kind of called into his radio show saying that he works for a real estate agency, I think is what it was. And that agency got a bid from Aaron Rodgers for a house in Pittsburgh. So that, along with the fact that Rodgers is allowing these videos and pictures of him and DK Metcalf to go out there on the internet. I mean, it definitely seems like Rodgers is on his way to Pittsburgh. It's just a matter of time before we get that official word. We also just got another Cash App here. And we'll make sure. And by the way, Jamie's name on YouTube is Dads of Duval County. So Dads of Duval County, appreciate you. Thank you so much for the $20 donation. You got those 2 raffle tickets to win that Aaron Rodgers jersey. And another Cash App. Oh, my goodness. The Cash Apps are just flowing today here, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll get to the final two Cash Apps, and then we'll get into our first segment of the day, which is the latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got one from Donna Elliott. Donna, thank you so much for the $5. And I don't see a message from Donna. I think we're good. Thank you so much for the $5, Donna. You're a real one. And then we got Quincy again with a 5. Thank you so much, Quincy. I'm trying to see if there's a message from Quincy here. He says, do you think Aaron Rodgers is too old? I don't, Quincy, and here's why. There's historical precedence for all-time great NFL quarterbacks who, haven't lost their arm strength yet, going to new teams and getting them close or straight up winning Super Bowls. Just look at Brett Favre. 2008 had one of his worst seasons of his career with the New York Jets. Missed the playoffs entirely with them. He looked completely cooked. He goes to the Minnesota Vikings, who are a 10-win team and was a one-and-done playoff team. Sound familiar, Steelers fans? It's exactly where the Steelers are in terms of where they're at in this kind of situation. And then Brett Favre went into Minnesota, had one of the best years of his career, and got them one play away from a Super Bowl against the eventual Super Bowl champions in the New Orleans Saints that year. Then Tom Brady in 2019, his final year in New England, had one of his worst seasons of his career, arguably the worst of his career. Then he goes to a 7-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that missed the playoffs the year before, a team that was in an even worse spot than where the Steelers are right now, and they won the Super Bowl the next year. So I look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and it was a completely crumbling situation there in New York. The head coach got fired. The offensive coordinator was a complete idiot who didn't know what the hell he was doing schematically. We all know that with Nathaniel Hackett. He was even worse than Matthew Canada, in my opinion. And that's saying something. You guys know how I feel about Canada. But, you look at Rodgers, he was in a situation where even though he was surrounded by talent from a personnel standpoint in terms of the players, there was just no organizational structure to the coaching. So there was no way that team was going to have success. If I can quote the great Bill Belichick, the greatest head coach of all time, in my opinion, he says, good players cannot overcome bad coaching. And that's what we saw from the New York Jets last year. If Rodgers comes here to Pittsburgh, he's got a bona fide wide receiver duo in DK Metcalf and George Pickens, some nice supplementary receiving weapons in Pat Freiermuth, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III. He's going to have a dynamic running back duo, hopefully, with the new running back that the Steelers are going to be drafting, an offensive line that's still young and developing, but very promising, and then a defense that if they can just stay off the field and they have an offense that actually balances things out a little bit, they can be among the best defenses in the National Football League. So I feel very optimistic about the Steelers' prospects with Aaron Rodgers. Now, I can't sit here and guarantee success, but I think it definitely gives the Steelers the best possible chance at success this season. And at this point, I'll definitely take that. Jeffrey Black, my man, with a $1 super chat. Appreciate you, Jeffrey. Thanks for contributing to the show today, my friend. And then we got a $15 Australian dollar super chat from Kieran Leaney. Says, huge Steelers fan from Australia, mate. Hoping we move up in the draft using some of our picks to grab a solid QB. What are your thoughts about this and what picks would make it possible? So it definitely depends, Kieran, but I actually think the Steelers are more likely to trade down than up. All right, I think that the Steelers like Jackson Dart and they like Tyler Shuck, but I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to take him at 21. And when it comes to Shadur Sanders, I actually think there's a decent chance that he falls in this draft. But with Aaron Rodgers in the building and the Steelers having a couple different areas that they probably want to fill on their roster, I'm not sure if they're going to be willing to trade up when they already have limited draft resources. They don't have a second-round pick this year because of the DK Metcalf trade. So they have limited draft resources this year, and I don't know if I want to trade additional draft resources to move up for a guy in Shadur Sanders who has a below-average NFL arm playing in a city here in Pittsburgh where you're going to have to play late in the season in the cold, in the wind, and in the rain, outside football here in Pittsburgh, in Cleveland, in Baltimore, and in Cincinnati. I do not love the fit between Shadur Sanders and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not willing to trade up for him. So, Kieran, I actually think it makes more sense, at least in my opinion, to trade down and get an additional day 2 pick so you can fill all of your needs and still address the future at the quarterback position. So I think that's probably what they're going to end up doing. $20 from my man Titus Kitchen says, go Steelers. $20 gets him into the jersey raffle for the Aaron Rodgers jersey. We appreciate you. Mr. Titus Kitchens, $20 gets it done. Now we got a couple Venmos here. Mr. Lotteray, we will get this on screen here momentarily. Boom, boom. And then we have that one. Okay. We'll get to these Venmos here, and we will get to our first segment of the day where I'm going to be sharing my takeaways from the various interviews we've seen from Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan at the NFL owners meetings and what it means for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. We'll talk about all the various different things going on right now. And we got a couple Super Chats, Venmos, and Cash Apps to get to here momentarily. So we will get to that. And then also, we'll also have to talk about the DK and Aaron Rodgers thing here, Jack, if you have that photo. $5 from Alan Oliveira. I hope I'm saying that right, my friend. And he says, hey, I got my DK Metcalf jersey the day after it came out. Let's go Steelers. Also, if we draft a quarterback, what round and who would you draft? Ideally, I would like Jalen Milroe in round 4. That would be like the ideal situation for me, man. Like Milroe can sit behind Rodgers for 2 years, maybe 1 year, who knows, and learn from Mason Rudolph as well. He's got some great physical tools. He shows some good things on tape. He just needs to be developed. And who better to learn from than Aaron frickin' Rodgers, man? One of the best, most intelligent quarterbacks in NFL history. The quarterbacks that he's mentored, Zach Wilson, Jordan Love, have given him rave reviews as somebody that's helped them develop as quarterbacks and as men in the National Football League. So I actually think that, Rodgers would be an excellent mentor to a young quarterback, and Milroe's got a ton of upside. So if I'm going to be taking a quarterback for the future and I'm going to be going for upside here, I think Jalen Milroe, and if you can get him late round 3, round 4, I think that would be a decent value for somebody of his skill set. Then we got a $20 Cash App from my man Justin. It's a Cash App, yeah. Justin Yankuzi, my man. Let's see what he had to say. He just wants another raffle entry. 2 raffle entries for my man Justin Yankuski with a $20 Cash App. Then he sends in a super chat to send in his message. He says, Colin Cowherd said Dan Moore Jr. was our best lineman. Steelers Talk Live is the only place with actual insight on the Steelers. Yeah, Colin Cowherd doesn't know shit about the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. This is actually what he thinks, all right? This is the Colin Cowherd Steelers logic, all right? They can't build an offense because they don't get good players, all right? And they don't prioritize getting good players on the offense. Then the second they make an investment on an offensive player, DK Metcalf, and paid him $30 million per season, he said it was a terrible move because they can't develop offensive players. Well, which one is it, Colin? Do you want them to invest in offense or not? And it's ridiculous to see him go up there and just trash the Pittsburgh Steelers no matter what they do. And, he doesn't provide any insight on the Steelers. That's why he subscribed to Pittsburgh Steelers Talk by Chat Sports, man. All right, so before we get to our first segment here, we got to talk about this. We did talk about Rodgers and DK in their LA workout on today's AM video, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. But pictures and videos came out of the workout just before we went live here. And, of course, there is Raji and DeCussy in LA working out together, and there was a video of Rodgers doing his little play action, his classic play action fake, throwing an in cut to DK Metcalf. It was a thing of beauty. By the way, you know who likes to run in cuts off of play action? That's right, Arthur Smith. I think that Arthur Smith probably told Aaron Rodgers to throw a couple of different kinds of routes to DK Metcalf, and it sounds like that all went well. The fact, by the way, that DK's videographer, Amen Culture, was allowed to put these out on the internet definitely tells me that Aaron Rodgers is fine with this being out, out in the ether and on social media. Certainly seems like Rodgers is letting it be known. Yeah, I'm probably going to come to Pittsburgh here. So that's all great news, man. And I'm excited to see what this pairing is going to be able to do, because this could be really, really dangerous for the Pittsburgh Steelers. $5 from Father to Father Popcast. What's up, my man? Says 7-year injury-prone Tyler Shuck is not it. Can we leave him out of the discussion? I don't want to leave him out of the discussion because he does have the injury issues, all right, and he is really old. Those are his 2 red flags, which is why I have a round 2 grade on Shuck and not a round 1 grade. But if he didn't have those 2 issues, if he was 22 years old and never had an injury, and maybe if he played for a more successful program that put a better surrounding cast around him, people would be talking about this guy like he was a top 20 pick bona fide in this NFL draft, man. He's got some really impressive tape. He gets the ball out on time and efficiently. He's got some really great mental processing chops within structure. He's got really great footwork and throwing mechanics. Those with great touch down the field. I really like a lot of the things that Tyler Shuck brings to the table. And there's a reason why people that watch film, Greg Cosell of NFL Films, Louis Riddick from ESPN, Todd McShay, there's a lot of people that are high on Tyler Shuck because they watch the film and they're like, this guy's pretty darn good, man. It's just a matter of he is older. He's going to be 26 in September. But, hey, if he turns into a starting caliber quarterback right away, you get a decade out of him at least. I mean, that's absolutely worth the investment, right? It's just the fact that he gets such a short runway to prove himself. A 22-year-old Shedeur Sanders has multiple years to prove himself. Tyler Shuck's going to have to prove himself immediately on his first chance of being a starter in this league. So that's the thing about Tyler Shuck that should scare you, is that he's got a very short window to prove that he can be a starting quarterback. But I think his film shows a quarterback that is ready for the National Football League from a mental perspective, from a physical perspective. And if the Steelers end up getting him, I hope they trade down for him and not take him at 21 overall. I think that's a little bit of a reach. But I think that he's a good quarterback on film, and I trust my eyes in that regard, and I would be fine if he ends up being the Steelers, the quarterback that the Steelers end up drafting. But that's just my personal opinion. $10 from my man John Masood. $10 says, Jack, just wanted to thank you for being so knowledgeable about NFL football. I've learned more from you and Chat Sports than most anyone. Appreciate that, John Masood. That's what we strive to do here at Chat Sports, is we try to give you guys insightful and fun content every single day for free on this channel. So thank you for being a real one, man. All right, we've gotten through all of the super chats and all that great stuff. So we're going to get into our first segment here, which is the latest news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about what Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan had to say at the NFL owners meetings in Palm Beach, Florida, and some interesting nuggets there that I think are going to give you some insight in what the Steelers are planning for the 2025 season. So without further ado, let's get into the show right now. Keep sending in those super chats and keep sending in those Cashaps and Venmos. We will get to them after our first segment here, but until then, let's get into it. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. And today, Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan both spoke to the media in Palm Beach, Florida for the NFL owners meetings. And they had some very interesting things to say about the quarterback position, about the acquisition of DK Metcalf and some other players here at the Pittsburgh Steelers roster for 2025. So today, I'm going to be sharing my takeaways from those interviews and media availabilities. But before we get into that, man, we've got some business to take care of, all right? We cannot lose this sub-battle for the month of March in the AFC North, all right? And right now we're sitting good when it comes to the Ravens and the Bengals, who are several hundred subscribers behind us. But right now we are just 9 subscribers behind the Browns report in total subs gained for the month of March. It's been an awesome month, man, with the Aaron Rodgers stuff, with free agency. You guys have been phenomenal. But new viewers, we are counting on you guys right now to click that subscribe button. Help us get us over the top here. We have not lost an interdivision sub battle. And right now the Browns report is telling their fans, do not let them catch us, all right? So I know for a fact they're going to add like 30 subscribers on today's show. We got to catch them. Let's win the month of March. Click that subscribe button right now. So we'll start with my takeaways here, which the first one is Rodgers signing soon? And not only, is Rodgers working out with DK Metcalf, they're in LA posting the videos on social media, talking with guys like Pat Freiermuth and Arthur Smith, and Mike Tomlin for that matter quite frequently. But it certainly seems like Tomlin knows something in terms of the Aaron Rodgers timeline, and he seems to think he's going to choose to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what Tomlin had to say on the Rodgers saga in Palm Beach this week. Aaron came to spend the day with us. We had an awesome day. For a couple of guys like ourselves, me and Aaron, to be in the league as long as we have, to be familiar with one another, is still no substitute for spending time together and bouncing ideas off of one another and getting to know one another in a more intimate way beyond competition. And then when he was asked during his media availability if Rodgers gave him a timeline, he said, we've had some discussions, but I'll leave that between he and I. And then he had a big smirk on his face indicating that he's pretty optimistic he's going to choose the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what it all sounds like here, guys, is Rodgers has got a timeline, and he's going to make a decision at some point. He's discussed with the Steelers when he's comfortable making that decision. Who knows if it's 10 minutes from now or 10 days from now or 10 weeks from now. But whatever that timeline is, it seems like the Steelers are cool with that. And as Jeremy Fowler reported this weekend, the Steelers seem to have some sort of quote-unquote loose assurance that Rodgers will eventually be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not going to spend my entire time on this video talking Rodgers and DK. We've already put out a whole video breaking down their workout, all that different stuff in LA this weekend. So if you want to see my thoughts on that, you can check out our Rodgers video from earlier today. I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. Then we'll move on to Omar Khan, what he said about the quarterback plan. He says, we always go into training camp with 4 quarterbacks, and we have 2 under contract right now. So all options are on the table through free agency, trade, or draft. So Khan pretty much said that the team will for sure add another veteran quarterback before camp. It sounds like that quarterback's going to be Aaron Rodgers. But if they strike out on Rodgers, fully expect this team to get some sort of other veteran quarterback, whether that be Ryan Tannehill, whether that be somebody else, and that somebody else could be Kirk Cousins, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, who said that Cousins could be Pittsburgh's emergency quarterback option if they somehow strike out on Aaron Rodgers. That certainly seems like a very low possibility at this point. Certainly seems like Rodgers will eventually sign on the dotted line. But I would say the 2 names to watch out for is, in terms of veteran options, if they miss out on Rodgers, is Kirk Cousins, number 1, and Ryan Tannehill, number 2. Another takeaway that I had from some of the media availability we had this week is that Steelers are looking for a long-term solution at quarterback, and they're fully cognizant that they need to get somebody for the long term either this year or next year. Omar Khan said this during his press conference today. At some point, we have to find a long-term solution at quarterback. I'll say that might happen this year. It could happen next year. But in the meantime, we're going to keep doing whatever we can to win a championship this year in 2025. And, when you talk about Omar Khan and he said at the Combine, he believes that this team and this roster is capable of winning a Super Bowl, which is why they invested in an older Russell Wilson last year. That's why they're investing and waiting on Aaron Rodgers, who's 41 years old. They still believe that those guys, especially Rodgers now, is capable of delivering this team a championship in the short term while they try to win a Super Bowl for Cam Hayward. But they are also cognizant that they need to get a long-term answer at quarterback whenever Cam Hayward does retire and they begin to shift the focus of this team to more of a more long-term type of situation. And then speaking of the long-term solution at quarterback, Jalen Milroe is certainly somebody that's been talked about quite a bit among Steelers media, but there was somebody that did not talk about Jalen Milroe at Palm Beach this week, and that is Mike Tomlin. This is what Coach T had to say about some of the quarterbacks that they have met with in this year's class. Last week was a big week for us. We went to Texas, Ohio State, and Notre Dame, for example. Didn't mention Alabama there. Said we had a chance to meet with a significant number of them in Indy, and now we're on the pro day circuit. The class doesn't seem to be devoid of talent. I like a lot of the guys I've met, not only in terms of their tangible qualities, but their intangible qualities. I feel really good about the trajectory of the group and how we're going to place them on the board. So personally, guys, I think that the Milroe omission is telling. All right? They spent a lot of time in Tuscaloosa during that pro day, and they even had dinner with Jalen Milroe and others at the Tuscaloosa pro day the night before. He ended up running, depending on the time you believe, a high 4.3 or a low 4.4 in his 40-yard dash, which is a blazing time for a quarterback. But Mike Tomlin is somebody that likes to kind of get the media off the scent of what the Steelers want to do. Ever since the media was on his ass about their interest in Najee Harris all those years back, ever since then, he's really made it a point to, direct the media's attention somewhere else so that he can use some sleight of hand, and then, all of a sudden, here we go. We've seen this with the quarterback situation where they tell us, we're interested in Mason Rudolph, or, we're interested in bringing back Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And then, bam, they bring in Russell Wilson. Or, bam, they go after Aaron Rodgers. Like, they do this sleight of hand, and they like to get the media off their scent. They like to put out kind of these narratives. So, by pointing out Texas, Notre Dame, and Ohio State, not Alabama, might be something there where he's leaving out Jalen Milroe because he doesn't want people to think that the Steelers are really targeting Milroe potentially close to the top of their draft board this year. Now, Adam Schefter did say, in terms of drafting Milroe, say in round 1, is that the Steelers are unlikely to take a quarterback in round one, especially if they bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers. And you got to fill running back, you got to fill defensive tackle, you got other team needs you want to address. I'm not sure how much sense it would make to reach on a quarterback in round one, especially if you have Aaron Rodgers in hand. So Schefter thinks that the Steelers taking a quarterback in round one is unlikely at this point, and I would have to agree with him. That is, if the Steelers do end up locking up Aaron Rodgers. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. What is the percent chance that Pittsburgh takes a quarterback in round one this year? I won't say it's 0. I would say it's relatively low, though. Give me a scale of 0 to 100 of the percent chance the Steelers take a quarterback this year. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube will throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question with a number between 0 and 100. Fourth takeaway I took away from Tomlin's media availability this week is that he expects DK Metcalf to have an impact on the offense, not just with his presence there, but also make an impact on the other players in this wide receiver group as well. It's what Tomlin had to say about DK's skill set. For someone that organizes defensive efforts for the larger part of my career, I can't underscore the significance of a guy like DK. It's not only the plays that he makes, it's the schematics that guy like him controls. I just know that when you're playing DK Metcalf, it controls how you call coverage. There's a statistical component of his contributions, but there's also an intangible component of his contributions that get distributed across an offensive unit to others that's equally as exciting. He's a difference maker. He's really significant. There's very little on a football field from a wide receiver perspective that he can't do. He's got short game. He's got long game. He's a combat catch guy. He's got run after, and he's a devastating run blocker. And we're going to use all of those talents. And that gets me fired up, man, for this era of Steelers wide receiver play with DK Metcalf leading the way. Because, yes, having a true number one wide receiver in the room is awesome, but it's also exciting for the other guys in this room because instead of going up against number one corners, George Pickens gets to go up against number two corners. Instead of going up against number two corners, Calvin Austin III gets to go up against number three corners, right? I like George Pickens a lot more as a number two receiver than as a number one, and I like Calvin Austin III a lot more as a wide receiver 3 than as a wide receiver 2. So not only do you add a true number one presence in DK Metcalf, but you also make the other players in the room better. And I completely agree with Mike Tomlin's evaluation of the situation right there. And I think it's absolutely worth giving up a second-round pick, especially if your focus is winning on the short term before Cam Hayward retires. Now, before we get into the rest of my takeaways from Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin's media availability in Palm Beach this week, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can get a DK Metcalf Steelers jersey officially licensed by the National Football League from our friends at Fanatics today when you go to chatsports.com/DK. And of course, we know DK Metcalf, he's going to be awesome in the black and gold, man. He's going to be wearing number 4, looking sharp. If you want to be looking sharp too, wearing his number and his name on your back, go to chatsports.com/DK. Also, when you use our link and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds to help us keep this content free for you guys. We really do appreciate all of your support. All right, now let's get to the rest of the takeaways here. And we'll stick with the wide receiver position, where I think that the signs do point to George Pickens sticking around, all right? And the reason for this is, a lot of people have been saying, oh, you trade George Pickens because he and DK Metcalf are like the same player. Well, Mike Tomlin kind of refuted that, saying they're both downfield capable, but they're different people. DK is a big man, George Pickens is a tall man, and there's a difference. And I completely agree with Mike Tomlin on this. Once again, I think he hits the nail on the head, right? There's a difference between somebody that's tall and big versus somebody that is just tall. And I think George Pickens, as a number 2 receiver on the outside, certainly is still capable of winning down the field in the ways that he won in previous seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he's also a little bit lighter, which could open up his route tree a little bit. It could open him up to play in the slot. It can open him up to play still on the outside at Z. Do a lot of different things with George Pickens that you weren't able to do before because he was your true number 1 weapon. And honestly, he was your only true dynamic threat as a receiving weapon out there for your offense. So the addition of DK Metcalf, like I said earlier, it makes George Pickens better. And I think that DK and George Pickens can absolutely coexist together. And I think that they would. And I think that they would become one of the best wide receiver duos in all of football, especially with Aaron Rodgers throwing on ball. Then we get to another one here where the offensive line plans seem to be revealed. And it really reflects what I've been saying on this show for weeks. This is what Tomlin had to say about the offensive line. Talent acquisition is just one thing. Talent development is the next step for us. We've made the commitment over the last several years to acquire some pretty awesome young talent at that position, talking the offensive line. Those guys have proven their capability. I'm excited about the prospects of continuing to move forward with that group individually and collectively, knowing the growth that has happened and will continue to happen, not only for the individuals within the group, but the longer they play together. So this is kind of one where I'm going to take a little bit of a victory lap, because I've been saying on the show for weeks, months at this point, that if you're expecting the Steelers to get an offensive tackle in free agency or trade for somebody or add an offensive guard to start, you're going to be disappointed. They spent a first-round pick on Broderick Jones to play left tackle. He hasn't had the chance to play there, so they're going to give him the chance in 2025. Troy Fautano, they drafted him in the first round last year, got hurt. They're not going to replace him. Mason McCormick, a guy that they really liked coming out of South Dakota State last year. The plan was always for him to start at right guard this season and let James Daniels walk. And, of course, you got Zach Frazier and Isaac Seumalo, who don't have question marks as far as I'm concerned. All right, so you got your starting 5 offensive linemen. They've made the investment along that group. Like Tomlin says, though, the next step is player development. Can Broderick Jones, Mason McCormick, Troy Fautano prove their worth and prove that the investment that the Steelers made in them is worth it? And I think that there's certainly a chance they could do that. With Pat Meyer returning, I think there's a lesser chance that they do that. But there's no question, guys. Broderick Jones, Troy Fautano specifically, as first-round picks, have a high level of pedigree and promise to their game. And then Mason McCormick, in my opinion, came out last year. I had a round 3 grade on him because I loved his physical potential. I think after a full offseason, he could become a legit starter in this league. So it's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening along the offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that there's reason to have hope for this offensive line, but I can certainly see why some fans are certainly pessimistic that this group is going to be able to turn it around in 2025 after so many years of promise and failure along this group. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Will this offensive line be better in 2025 than it was last year? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. I think it will be. I think Broderick will be more comfortable at left tackle. Mason will have a full offseason to train at right guard as opposed to the expedited offseason he had last year after being drafted by this team. And hopefully Fautano stays healthy. If those 3 things happen, guys, I think this group has a chance to be good and good for a very long time. So give me a yes or a no to this question down there in the comment section. Another takeaway that I had here is that perhaps the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't going to be using a true nose tackle any longer. All right. And the reason why I think that I've kind of had this shift in thinking here is because of what Tomlin had to say about Keanu Benton and his versatility yesterday. He said Benton's got versatility, but that's why we took him that high, particularly in today's game. Not a lot of nose play in today's game based on matchups and so forth. I think we spend about 80% of our time in sub-package football, talking about nickel or dime, and so his versatility is an asset to him and to us where he's not reduced by offensive personnel that's potentially on the field or not. And perhaps we've been looking at this position all wrong, guys, because traditionally the Steelers do run more base 3-4 formations than anybody else in football, where they have 2 outside linebackers and then they have 3 interior linemen at the nose, at the 3 technique, and at the 5 technique. And right now, with their kind of traditional 3-man interior look, you'd have Montravius Adams at the nose, Keanu at the 3 tech, and then Cam Hayward at the 5 tech. But with so much sub-package football being played, and even the Steelers are starting to make this transition, you're seeing a lot more 4 down fronts. And with that, you got Highsmith and Watt on the edge, just like in your normal base, but you only have 2 interior linemen where you got Keanu and you've got Cam in the middle. And those 2 guys are definitely your starters at those 2 positions. Now, you got guys like Equale in there. You got Loudermilk. You got Montravius Adams to roll in there. But with the Steelers living in 4-man fronts 80% of the time, perhaps the Steelers are okay not having a true nose tackle because Keanu can play there when they do go to their base formations. But then also, when they go to the 4-man front, they've got their 2 bona fide starters in Benton and Hayward with a bunch of guys that they like to rotate in to the front. Now, I do think that the Steelers will still probably take a defensive tackle, and they could even take one early. Cam Hayward is certainly not going to be that second man in the 4-man front for very much longer. 2 more years is the timetable for that. So they probably definitely want to get somebody for the future that can contribute not only now, but 2 years down the line when Cam is no longer a part of this football team. So I do expect the Steelers to be investing in defensive tackle at some point during this NFL draft. It's just a matter of what round and when they pull the trigger on that player. Then we get to my final takeaway here is that Daniel Ekuale, one of the free agents that they brought in here at defensive tackle, his role was kind of revealed, and what the Steelers liked about him has been revealed by head coach Mike Tomlin, with Coach T saying this about the new Steelers defensive interior lineman. This is a guy that really plays blocks and recognizes run schemes extremely well. I expect him to be an anchor point for us in that regard to control the line of scrimmage, particularly in run-down circumstances. So essentially, Ekuale is going to cover all the bases for the Pittsburgh Steelers at defensive tackle. All right? Like, I honestly think when they go to their base 3-4 looks, they're going to put Benton at the nose, and then they're going to have Ekuale play probably the 5 technique with Cam playing the 3. And, you know, with Equale's ability to stop the run, I think that's why he's being brought in here. He's not much of a disruptor in terms of being a pass rusher. He is a run-stuffing specialist. That is why he is here. And then along with the guy that they end up drafting this year, that's going to be a pretty darn deep and good defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2025 season. So I said it when they signed Ekuale that this is somebody that they're bringing in for run support. Mike Tomlin confirmed that in Palm Beach this week, which is why you click that subscribe button here at Steelers Talk, because we were right about the offensive line. We were right about Ekuale being a run stuffer. We were right about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers' interest in Aaron Rodgers before anybody else had it. Everybody was saying Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. We were saying Aaron Rodgers. That's why you click that subscribe button. That's why you join the Steelers Talk family, so you always get the inside scoop surrounding the black and gold. First segment in the books, Mr. Jack Lauderay. Coming up next is my 2025 running back draft targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to be talking about day 1, day 2, and day 3 draft targets for the black and gold here coming up very soon. I'm going to check my phone to see if we got any more. We did not get any more Cashapps or Venmos. Did we get any more Super Chats? We got 1 Super Chat, so we will get that going here in just a second. But if you guys want to get on the show, you guys can send in any question that you have. If you have a Steelers topic you want me to discuss, send in that Super Chat, and we will discuss it on today's show. Also, $20 gets you into a raffle to win an Aaron Rodgers Steelers jersey when and if he signs with the Steelers. Certainly seems like we are hours, if not just days away from Rodgers officially becoming a Pittsburgh Steeler, with all the hints that we are getting of his interest in this football team. So whenever that decision goes down, we will be live on this channel. Probably not with Coop, unfortunately. He's heading to London, and then he's off to, I think it's New Orleans for a bachelor party after that. So we don't get Coop for the next 2 weeks, but who knows? Rodgers might not sign in those 2 weeks there, Producer Jack. But whenever that decision comes down, make sure you have your $20 in to get in on the raffle. Again, you guys can get an extra raffle ticket if you send your $20 into @Jack-Sperry on Venmo, # Captain Jack 19 on Cashapp, or @Captain Jack Rabbit on PayPal, because YouTube takes 30% cut of every single Super Chat you send in, and that stinks, all right? So if you want us to keep more of the money that you send in, you can send it to Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. We greatly appreciate you guys. All right, here we go. Now we get to the Super Chat from Mr. Chris. Says, Jack, oh no, F Jack in the chat. Says, Jack, if we trade down once or twice in the draft, we could make significant moves in next year's draft. I know we have needs, but this is an opportunity. And here's the thing, Chris. They're getting draft picks in next year's draft regardless. All right. So if you're worried about getting picks for next year's draft, the comp picks that the Steelers are getting, they have like 4 picks lined up for next year already with the guys that they're letting walk in free agency. So essentially how it works, Chris, is that if you have free agents that walk in free agency that make a certain amount of money, then they are worth a certain amount of draft pick the following year. So, for example, Russell Wilson is worth a 5th-round pick for making over $10 million with the New York Giants, because Dan Moore Jr. made the astronomical amount of money he made with Tennessee. That's worth a 3rd-round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. Justin Fields was worth a 4th-round pick because he was a 1st-round pick and made a certain amount of money with the New York Jets. James Daniels was worth a certain amount of money. Therefore, he's worth a 6th-round pick. So, you know, the Steelers already have 4 additional draft picks next year. I think that the focus this year, Chris, is on picks this year. Like, if you're trading down, you want picks this year because you already have additional draft picks next year. So they certainly have an opportunity. And, if they get an additional draft pick next year, I'm not going to cry about it. That's just more draft capital to potentially go and get your future franchise quarterback in round 1 next year when the quarterback class is better. But, I'm certainly not going to cry either if they don't get an additional draft pick by trading down. All right, and they get an additional pick this year, for example. So I certainly think that is something. We also just got a PayPal here, Mr. Jack Lotteray. Just use the Venmo graphic. There you go. And then Chris sends in another $5 super chat. We'll put you up on screen here momentarily, Chris. Appreciate all the donations today, guys. You're real ones. By the way, we are over $100 in donations already, so we will have that 10-minute kind of Q&A session at the end of our next segment. But Joseph Grimaldi coming in with a $5 PayPal. He says, I really enjoy the content you create, wondering when we're going to get a Pittsburgh Chat Sports wedding. You don't need to answer this online if you don't want to have a great day. I don't know, man. We'll have to see. When the timing's right, we'll figure it out and we'll have an announcement. All right. So when the timing's right, it's the answer I'll give you, Joseph. $5 from my man Chris. Another one says Jack. Oh wait, this is the one that he put out before. Is this a new one? Says I know about next year's comp picks, but if we want to trade up to get franchise QB, we will need all the picks we can if we need to move up to number 1. Honestly, I think with all the picks that you have a first, a second, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, 2 fifths. You might have 3 thirds. You got quite a few picks, man. Now, like I said, I'm not going to cry if you get additional picks next year. But, how many picks exactly do the Steelers need? Because right now they've got, 11 picks slated to come their way next year? How many do we really need? The Steelers are trying to win now, and they need players to help them. So, I'm not against getting more picks for next year, Chris, but I don't want it to be at the expense of making sure this team is ready to rock. And by the way, I think that's going to be part of the deal with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is going to be like, we need to get players, man. I have maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years left with this team. You got to surround me with players. And if you're going to try to win now and try to get Cam Hayward a ring, you got to get players now. So, I'm not against the idea if you do trade down, if you add 1 more pick or 2 more picks for next year, but I don't think that should be the main focus. I think the main focus should be to make this year's team as good as it can possibly be, and then if you do get another 3rd-round pick for next year or another 2nd-round pick for next year, that's all well and good, all right? I think that's just the cherry on top. That can't be the cake, though. That can't be the reason for the event, is what I'm saying, Chris. But I appreciate your perspective. All right. Are we ready to get to our next segment here, Mr. Jack? He says yes or no? He says yes, we are ready to get to our next segment here. So coming up here, we've got running back draft targets for your Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's all coming at you guys right now. It's the first in a series of videos here breaking down the top team needs for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2025 NFL Draft and breaking down all the top draft targets at that position, both round 1, round 2 and 3, and then rounds 4 through 7. Day 1, day 2, and day 3 breakdown today of the running back position. One of the needs that the Steelers certainly need to fill heading into the 2025 NFL Draft. So if you guys want more potential positional draft target videos, make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now. Don't forget to click that thumbs up icon as well to let us know that you enjoy today's content. You guys are the absolute best. So first up here, let's start with where we're at right now when it comes to the running back position. All right, and they did sign Kenneth Gainwell, who currently is slating in as this team's number 2 wide receiver running back, I should say, behind Jaylen Warren, who has been a really good player for this offense for many years at this point. He's a UDFA, but Najee Harris leaves for the Los Angeles Chargers this year. But listen, as much as I like Kenneth Gainwell as a player, to me, he's more of a really good number 3 running back than a true number 2 running back. And Jaylen Warren, for as good as he is, I think he's a really good number 2 guy, but I'm not sure if he is established enough to be a bona fide number 1 running back on a team that wants the main engine of the offense to be the run game. So I think it's pretty obvious, based on the way that the running back room is being set up right now, that they're drafting a running back. Some point, whether it's in day 1, day 2, or day 3, they are going to pair somebody up with Kenneth Gainwell and Jaylen Warren here for the 2025 season and beyond. Now, the question is, where do they see Warren kind of fitting in? Do they see him as the number one and then the rookie's going to be the number two? Or are they looking to get a legit number one running back and then make Jaylen Warren the number two just like he was when Najee Harris was here? I think what I would prefer for a team that is trying to win now, for a team that wants the run game to go from like bottom 5 in the league last year to top 5, I would say the easiest and quickest way to do that is get the best possible running back you can and then let Jaylen Warren be the really, really good number 2 running back that he's capable of becoming. And because of that thinking, guys, because you want to really turn around this position as much as you possibly can, I would say don't rule out a running back in round 1, all right? And the thing you have to understand about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we just talked about it, this team wants to be run through the run game, all right? Arthur Smith wants this team to be a run-first offense. And in order to be a dominant run-first offense that can run the ball, even when the defense knows it's coming, even when they have a stacked box, is that you got to have a star-level running back. All right, you look at the teams that have those star-level running backs, the Eagles with Saquon Barkley, Baltimore with Derrick Henry, 49ers with Christian McCaffrey, the teams that can run the piss out of the football and can do it whenever they want, have a guy that can enforce their will on the opposing defense from the running back position. The Steelers don't have one of those guys, in my opinion. I like Jaylen Warren a lot. I don't think he's a Saquon. I don't think he's a Derrick Henry. I don't think he's a C-Mac. But the two guys that I think could be that kind of star for the Steelers running back room, and the two guys that I would spend a first-round pick on this year, Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State and Omar Hampton out of North Carolina. If you can get your mitts on one of these two guys, absolutely go and do that. That would be my first priority if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2025 NFL draft. Even with a class as deep as it is, I would still rather get Jeanty or Hampton. We'll start with Jeanty here in his college profile. The long speed's incredible. Acceleration's really, really good. His foot quickness is special as well. But what really makes him really, really a special player, guys, and what makes him arguably generational is his contact balance, his ability to take on a hit, make a guy miss, and keep running at full speed. It is special. It's some of the best I've ever seen, and it reminds me a lot of Alvin Kamara in his prime with the New Orleans Saints. All right, he's got workhorse stamina. He's good in terms of a power back as well because he wins the leverage battle at 5'9". He's built really low to the ground, but he's got incredible lower body strength. And, I think one of the cons to his game is he's got heavy college usage. He's got some the tread has been kind of worn off the tires a little bit, but this is somebody with incredible stamina. He's somebody with an incredible skill set, guys. I think he's worth a top 10 pick because of his ability to make guys miss. He's an absolute game wrecker, and he'd be the closest thing to Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, or Christian McCaffrey that the Steelers can possibly get this offseason. So if you have an opportunity to even trade up a couple spots for Ashton Jeanty, I think you absolutely pull the trigger if you're Steelers GM Omar Khan. Then the other guy I would spend a first-round pick on is Omar Hampton out of North Carolina. And the reason for that is because he's so well-rounded. He's got great size. He's got good long speed and acceleration. The vision is really, really nice as well. And any different type of scheme you want to run. You want to run inside zone duo, he can do that. You want to run power, he's got the size to do that. You want to run outside zone like the Steelers want to do, his one-cut ability is excellent as well. He has that workhorse stamina, so if you want him to be that true number 1 3-down back, he can certainly do that as well. Now, I think the cons are he's inconsistent in pass pro, given his size, and then like Jeanty, he had a heavy college workload. But I do have a late round 1, early round 2 grade on him, and I think that he's going to go in round 1 because he's a really, really freaking good player, man. And honestly, when you look at the positions, quarterback, running back, defensive tackle, corner, all the positions the Steelers need here, I honestly think the one that they might consider trading up for, as crazy as it sounds, is running back. Because I think that there's, as deep as this running back class is, and as much as you can get a good running back in the middle rounds of this year's draft class, I think there's only two guys that are definitely going to be stars. And I think those two guys are Ashton Jeanty and Omar Hampton. All right, so if you have a chance to get one of those guys that can step into your building day one and be the man in the run game, I think you absolutely take that chance and you go up, especially for the right price tag. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Should running back be a consideration for Pittsburgh in round 1? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And while I'm talking about Prize Picks, give me a yes or a no for today's pinned comment. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor at Prize Picks, which is the best place to get real money sports action all on your phone. You can download the Prize Picks app today and join over 10 million members to sign up. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect, and you can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, where every Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. And of course, the Final Four is coming up here, guys. Baseball just got started. You guys can get going right now on Prize Picks with those projections. And all you have to do, guys, is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And then if you know ball, watch the winnings roll in with our friends at Prize Picks today. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, so I think that moving on past the first round here, guys, I think Genty and Hampton are the only two guys that I would spend a first-round pick on. And the reason for that is that you do have very good depth at this position in the draft. So unless you're getting a guy that you are really 100% sure is going to be an absolute stud on day one, like I feel about Genty and Hampton, you don't take a running back in round one, plain and simply, all right? There's plenty of guys that you can get in the middle rounds, whether that be in round 2, 3, or 4, that are going to be really good fits inside the Steelers system and can be a great running mate alongside Jaylen Warren. We'll start with my favorite kind of day 2 target at this position, which is Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, all right? And Johnson is a perfect fit for what the Steelers want to do. I mean, he's wearing black and gold last year. He's perfect fit. All right, the reason why I say that is because he is the best outside zone runner in this entire class. His ability to put his foot in the ground, find the right lane to run through, and then absolutely explode with incredible long speed is better than anybody else in this class in terms of the true vision and outside zone skill set. He's a big body, over 220 pounds. He reminds me a little bit, this is going to be a lofty kind of comparison here. But when he gets out in open space, he's really tough to bring down, similar to Derrick Henry when he's out there. He gets past the initial line, and he's just so freaking hard for DBs to bring down. Caleb Johnson's got a very similar quality to him, where he's got incredible long speed once he gets past the initial line. And if he's breaking it past that initial line, guys, he is a big play waiting to happen. So I love kind of the combination of skill sets he brings together. He's got great size. He fits what Arthur Smith wants to do with the wide zone running scheme. And then he's a big play man, where if he gets past that initial line, he is taking it 20, 30, sometimes 40, 50 yards for big explosive gains. That's exactly what the Steelers are looking for right now. So if they can get him in round 3, which isn't impossible, by the way, or potentially trade up for him in round 2, I think he'd be a match made in heaven here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another guy I'm a big fan of and actually have ranked on my overall big board higher than Caleb Johnson because I think he fits into more schemes than Johnson does is Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. And Judkins brings a really good blend of size, vision, acceleration, and long speed. Just a great collection of tools at his disposal that's going to lead to him being a very high floor type of player. He's going to be a good starting running back in the league from the word go, and as long as he stays healthy, he's going to remain that. All right, so if the Steelers want somebody that's very safe at the running back position, I think Quinshon Judkins is definitely somebody that brings that to the table. But don't get me wrong, with all the great skills that he brings to the table, he also has pretty darn high ceiling as well. I think he's probably going to end up going in round 2 of the NFL draft. Then you got DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. Now, the Steelers are showing a lot of attention to Giddens out of Kansas State. They had a formal combine meeting with him. They had a top 30 visit with him. And they're showing a lot of interest in him because he's a very tall running back. But for a taller guy, he's got great explosiveness both in the short area and in the long speed department. He ran a 4.43 40 at the combine, has a 9.78 relative athletic score, and then his ability to shake and bake a defender in the second level and make him miss with a shimmy is really, really special, man. Like, his ability to get out there, make those big plays happen, I think that the Steelers definitely see that, and they see kind of a bigger running back that's got that skill set, and that really draws their interest. So if Giddens is there in round 3, definitely keep your eye on him being the selection for the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 83 overall. Then you got R.J. Harvey out of UCF, a player that I've really fallen in love with, man. Great vision and patience, matched with some really, really great competitive toughness. He's good out of the backfield as well. And then his ability to jump cut, juke guys out of their shoes is really, really fun as well. Great acceleration and long speed as well, in my opinion. I think Harvey's going to be a really great surprise for somebody on late day 2 or early day 3 in this year's draft class, and I think he's got a great chance to be a starter for a team in this league. Damian Martinez is another guy that I really like, and a lot of people on Steelers Twitter have identified him as somebody that fits what the Steelers are kind of looking for. He's got a 9.32 relative athletic score because he's a good tester in just about every single category that you look at. He's not really bad in any category. He runs a 4.51, which is a decent time, especially for somebody at his size, and he's an absolute thumper. He's got some pretty darn good vision when he's running these wide zone concepts. And if you're looking for kind of a thumper, kind of like Najee Harris was, Damian Martinez I think has better vision than Najee did, and I think that he can certainly come in and be the thunder to Jaylen Warren's lightning. So really like Damian Martinez out of Miami. Then another guy that I really like is Bashal Tutin out of Virginia Tech. Now Tutin's defection is he fumbles the ball too much. All right, way too many fumbles at Virginia Tech, and that's going to be something that specifically Mike Tomlin is going to want him to fix because he does not like his offense to give up the football. But Tutin is a big play waiting to happen, just like Caleb Johnson is, over a 13% explosive run rate at Virginia Tech last year. 4.32 crazy speed at the running back position, and then also he had 24 reps at the bench press at his pro day. To put that in perspective, guys, Anais Peebles, who's a defensive tackle, had 28 at the Virginia Tech pro day. All right, so he is bench pressing, for his weight, crazy numbers. So you see that with his ability to make guys miss in open space. He's got great contact balance, and then his acceleration and long speed are truly special. So if he can figure out how to protect the football, which is a coaching issue, which I know Mike Tomlin's not going to run away from, Tutin's the type of guy that's one of the best outside zone rushers in this entire class, and he could be a game wrecker for the Steelers at the low cost of a late day 2 or an early day 3 pick. Then we get Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. The reason why Travion's a little bit lower on my list here, guys, is because I think for the value, it's not worth it. All right, I think he's going to go probably maybe late round 1, maybe round 2, and I think that's just a little bit too early, at least in my opinion, on Travion Henderson. Now, don't get me wrong, Henderson could be a star. All right, he's explosive. He's got incredible short area. He's got incredible acceleration and long speed. If you give him a track to run down, he's running it to the house, all right? Like, the long speed is game-wrecking, but he needs better vision. He doesn't pick the right lane to run through consistently enough, and because of that, there's a lot of plays on his film where it's like, damn, dude, like, just run here, and it's a touchdown, and it ends up being a 4-yard gain instead. That's something that scares me about his film. I think it needs to get a lot better if he's going to become the star he has the potential to become. But there's no doubt that he's got the physical capabilities of being a star in this league. Then Cam Scatterbo out of Arizona State. Kind of the exact opposite almost of Travion Henderson because Scatterbo's a bigger back. Henderson's kind of smaller. Scatterbo does not have great long speed. Henderson has electric long speed. But Scatterbo, in my opinion, does everything you want from your starting running back except run fast. A 4.65 40-yard dash time was what has been rumored out there about his individual workout at Arizona State, which is obviously very slow. But there have been running backs in this league that have run in the 4.6s that have had a lot of success. Just look at James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals right now. He ran in the 4.6s. He's a top 10 running back in the league. And if anybody running a 4.6 is going to be a successful number 1 running back in the league, in my opinion, it's going to be Cam Scatterbo because he's got incredibly quick feet. He breaks tackles at a higher rate than any other running back in college football over the last half decade than 2 guys, Bijan Robinson and Ashton Jeanty, both of which will be top 10 picks in my opinion. So Scatterbo can make guys miss. He's an absolute bowling ball like Jeanty. He's built low to the ground, so he's like trying to tackle a bear, like a little baby bear, like 20 times a game. It just wears out an opposing defense. He's a great receiver out of the backfield, too. Runs great, crisp routes. His change of direction ability is phenomenal. I just love the competitive toughness he brings to the table as well. So if you're looking for kind of the mini bus, kind of the shorter, kind of, bigger, thicker running back to pair with Jaylen Warren, Cam Scatterbo's got Steelers written all over him, probably at the end of the day 2, maybe early day 3. Then another guy in the mid-rounds that I would like for the Steelers is Jarquez Hunter, kind of a little bit of a smaller running back out of Auburn, but he is explosive, all right? Like, I think his explosiveness and his vision are getting a little bit underrated in this class, and I think that he's got the ability to potentially be a starting running back in this league. Obviously played in the SEC, so high level of competition. Really like his ability, to get out there once he gets past the initial line and make big plays even bigger. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already for more draft videos. I've got some day 3 prospects for the Steelers to consider here in just a second. But if you're enjoying today's content, tell the YouTube algorithm right now by clicking that thumbs up icon to make sure this video and all of our videos do the best that they can possibly do. So some late round running back targets that I'll touch on briefly here. Dylan Sampson. I'm lower on Sampson. I'll be completely honest with you guys. He's 20 years old. And for a team in the Steelers that needs somebody to be an impact player right away, I'm not sure Dylan Sampson's all the way there. I was a little surprised he came out for the NFL draft because I think that his tape last year showed a real lack of vision. And he's going to have to pick the right lane way more consistently in the National Football League if he wants to be a dynamic presence that he's capable of becoming. He's got great acceleration and long speed when he picks the right lane, but he doesn't do that very often. So I'm lower on Dylan Sampson. If he falls to the later rounds, I'd be fine taking him. He's got a lot of upside, but if you're looking for somebody to contribute right away alongside Jaylen Warren, I'm not sure Dylan Sampson's your guy. Devin Neal is a really good football player. Don't think he's the number 1 running back in the league, though. He just doesn't have the physical capabilities, in my opinion, to be able to fit that bill. Really good vision. Uses his blockers extremely well. He's a damn good football player, and somebody's going to be happy to get him on day 3. Jaden Blue, who did not run well at the Combine, but ran really well at his pro day. There's some whispers of 4.25 for him. Really good receiving back, scat back type. The Steelers have shown some interest in, so watch out for Jaden Blue on day 3. And Ollie Gordon II, somebody that the Steelers have shown a lot of interest in. Hopefully they don't take him too early. Does have some size, speed, combination stuff. Reminds people a lot of Najee Harris, including the vision issues, by the way. So honestly, I would rather take Gordon round 6, round 7 than in the middle rounds. But there's no doubt the Steelers like him. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which running back do you want the Steelers to draft this year? Could be Genty or Hampton in round 1. It could be any of the guys we talked about in the mid-rounds. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. For me personally, I would love for them to land Genty or Omar and Hampton in round 1. But that'll be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate your guys' support. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate you guys. And for more Steelers draft content every single day for free, click that subscribe button and join the Steelers Talk family today. Got some super chats to go over here. We do have a Cashapp here, Mr. Lauderay. I'll send this to you before I address the question on screen. There we go. Black Wolf 412, what's up, my man? Says, do we go after our future quarterback this year or next, potential and talent-wise? I think both. Potentially. I think you get somebody in your building this year, whether that's Jalen Milroe, whether that's don't use your first-round pick on a quarterback if you bring in Aaron Rodgers, is my philosophy. But you want to bring somebody in just to see if you like him, all right? See if he's showing you some things in practice behind Aaron Rodgers that's like, all right, this guy could be a starter for us. You got to keep throwing darts at the dartboard, all right? So I don't think it's a situation of whether it's this year or next year. I think you throw a dart at the dartboard this year, somewhere in the draft, whether that's early, whether that's in the middle rounds, whether that's in the late rounds. And then, in terms of drafting a quarterback in round 1, I would rather do that next year, not this year. The reason for that is I think there's some guys with stronger arms in next year's draft class that are going to be taken in round 1, guys like Nico and Arch Manning potentially, and, of course, Drew Aller. Those guys have strong arms that can survive in the AFC North. I think a lot of the guys in this year's class, specifically Shadur Sanders, not going to be able to do that. And then Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck, I think, do have NFL arms. But I think with Shuck, if you don't get Rodgers, I think he's a good dart throw. But, if you have Rodgers, you're really going to sit a 26-year-old rookie. And by the time he's starting for you, he's 27, 28. It's like, I don't know if that's necessarily a great plan, especially if you're taking him in round 1. And then Jackson Dart, I'd be fine with it, I guess. But, like we talked about in our previous video, I'd rather take a great running back like Ashton Genty or Omarion Hampton if you can in round 1. I'd rather get a guy that can be a game changer for your defense as a nickel defender like Malachi Starks or Jahdae Barron. I'd rather get a game-wrecking presence at DT to go alongside Keanu Benton for the next decade as opposed to getting Jackson Dart, who will sit for a year or two and then maybe develop into a starting quarterback, which he isn't one right now. So, personally, I think that if you're going to use a first-round pick on a quarterback next year is the time to do it, not this year. Get Rodgers in your building, then take a mid-round or late-round swing at a quarterback, see if you like him, and then next year, if you have a chance to get a quarterback, pull the trigger. $2 from Justin Yankuski says, how many teams would use first-round pick on running back above us? Quite a few, honestly. You got the Raiders at 6. You've got the Bears at 10, Cowboys at 12, and then for sure the Broncos at 20. So those are 4 teams right there. That's just off the top of my head. So if I'm being honest with you, Justin, I think the chances that the Steelers take a running back in round 1 are relatively low because I think Genty and Hampton come off the board a lot earlier than people are expecting, especially Hampton. I think a lot of people think Hampton's going to go late first. I think it's going to be a Jahmyr Gibbs situation where he may go top 15. He's a really good player. He's ready to go out of the box day one as a number 1 running back in the National Football League. And for these teams that feel like they're a running back away from having a really good run game, teams like the Broncos, teams like Las Vegas, teams like the Chicago Bears, they're going to invest first-round picks in these types of players, man. It's just the way it is. So honestly, I think the chances that the Steelers take a running back in the first round are pretty low. But if the opportunity arises, I would absolutely pull the trigger on that. $2 from my man Brian. It's a Cash App. There we go. We changed it for you there, Brian. Says, can a defensive-minded head coach still win a Super Bowl? I believe so. We've seen the last several. Obviously, it's been dominated by offensive head coaches as of late. Sirianni, of course, Andy Reid, and then you had Bruce Arians when Tampa Bay won theirs. Who was the last defensive-minded guy to win a Super Bowl? Was it Belly? Trying to think. Was it Belichick? I think it was Belichick was the last defensive head coach to win. That's a good point that you bring up there, Brian. But, I think it is possible. And I think we will see it eventually, right? I think a lot of the top guys are offensive-minded for obvious reasons. It's an offensive league. And having a guy like Andy Reid or Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay give you an inherent advantage in terms of offensive schematics and all these sorts of things, quarterback development, etc. But, I do think it's still possible for a defensive-minded head coach to win a Super Bowl. And maybe that's just the fan in me, hoping that this team can win a Super Bowl with Cam Hayward on the roster before he retires, and a belief. And I like Mike Tomlin as a guy a lot. I think he's a really great football coach. I think kind of like Belichick, he's great at certain things. I think he's a great locker room leader. I think he's a great motivator. I don't think he's as good as a schematics type of guru as some people might want to say that he is. I don't think he's a great team builder. I think that's kind of a big thing with him is that he hasn't been able to build an offense or an offensive line over the last several years. But I do think Tomlin has certain qualities to him where if he gets the right team and if he can just assemble the right team, I think he's got the leadership chops to lead this team to a Super Bowl again. It's just a matter of, is he going to be able to get this team to a spot from a personnel talent standpoint and from a schematic standpoint to get back to that spot. And I think after many years of failure in the playoffs at this point, if you think that he's incapable of doing that, I can't disagree with you. I get it. All right. I was saying the Steelers should move on from him at the end of last season. I thought it was time for a fresh start to get an offensive mind in the building, or at least somebody with connections to some of these vast offensive coaching trees that we have seen splurge over the last several years. But I do think, especially with Aaron Rodgers coming in, that, the roster has promise and it's got a lot of talent on it. A lot more than I think a lot of Steelers fans, a lot of negative Steelers fans would give it credit for. You got a great wide receiver duo. You got some nice supplementary receivers. You got a really good receiving tight end. You got a really good running back in Jaylen Warren, and let's hope they can pair him with another good back in the draft. You got an offensive line that is unproven, but they're very talented, and there's certainly reasons to be optimistic about that group. And then the defense, I think the reason why the defense has collapsed in recent years, guys, is because they're on the field for so long, because the offenses are so bad that they completely just get shat on in the time of possession battle. So the defense is always on the field, and they're getting gassed at the end of games. And then when all that time on the field gets accrued by the end of the season, they're just absolutely tired. And they're just, their stamina just goes down, just out. And by the time you make it to the playoffs and you play these elite offenses, they just get ramrodded because they're fatigued. So I think that the way that you get this defense to play better, they've got the talent. We know that. They were utterly dominant to start the season last year when their energy levels were high. But then, the offense is just so bad all throughout the year that you get to the postseason and they're so goddamn tired. They give up 30 or 40 points. We see it every year. So if Rodgers can come in, and if a new running back can come in, and the offensive line develops, which is more than possible, this team has the talent to be a good team and to be a legit title contender. I truly believe that. You gotta go down the narrow path here, which is you got to get the quarterback right, running back right, and the offensive line needs to develop. But you do those things, you've got the talent on the team. I truly believe that, and I think you got a leader in the locker room in Mike Tomlin as well. So if you can put the right roster around Tomlin, I think he's a leader that is still capable of winning a Super Bowl. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's what I believe. All right, so that's where I'm at. Still got a minute 15 to go. If you got any questions to go here at the end of today's show, but let us know in the chat if you guys want to talk about any kind of last-minute things. Again, $20 to get into the raffle for the Rodgers jersey. If he decides tonight, we're going live again later to talk about the Rodgers situation and the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Raffle off a Rodgers jersey. But no matter when it happens, guys, we'll be here to get you guys the latest. We appreciate you guys. 40 more seconds here. Anthony Fuller, my man, King Yinzer, coming in at the last second to put his name into the raffle. We're not worthy. We're not worthy, Mr. Anthony Fuller. The first ever $100 super chat in this channel's history. Just puts in a $20 super chat. And by the way, Anthony, I believe he's active duty. Are you active duty, Anthony, or are you a veteran now? Pretty sure he's active duty service member here, guys. So thank Anthony for his service as well. He serves our country. $20, Anthony. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate your support for the channel. Appreciate your service to our country. You're a real one. We love you. All right, man. That's going to be it for today's show. Oh, we just got another one. Let's go. I think Coop is in the chat today. So big shout out to Coop. He's getting ready for his big trip to London. He takes off tomorrow. So he's taking the day off today to get ready for that. So safe travels to Coop if you're still watching. We miss you, brother. $2 from Justin says, enjoy vacation, Coop. Yeah, enjoy vacation. He gets 2 vacations, producer Jack. He gets to go to London, and then he gets to go to New Orleans. I mean, Jack, I honestly can't think of 2 places more different than London, England versus New Orleans, Louisiana. Yeah, and he's getting 2 weeks off of work. Yeah. 2 weeks off is crazy. So Coop, hope you enjoy it, my friend. We'll see if Rodgers is signed before he ends up getting back from his trips. So you guys can't hear Jack, but he's saying, what's the odds that Rodgers is not signed by the time Coop gets back? I would give it a 5% chance. 2 weeks is a long time, man, and Rodgers is putting out a lot of signs he's going to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but no matter what happens, we're going to be covering it right here on Steelers Talk. So we appreciate your guys' support. We will see you guys next time. And until then, we go Steelers.